in all of our experience, model is as good as any other when it comes to looking at a B2B business's entire revenue life cycle.
If you want predictable, scalable revenue for your business, every single one of these stages needs to be like systematically working on their own, but connected with everything else. Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan here with you as usual, joined by our CEO, Josh Bouk. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the shift in B2B go-to-market and the fact we're shifting away from this old playbook of adding headcount, adding tools to solve every single growth problem, but actually what it means now to grow and move in a growth engineering model. One that's built on integrated systems, optimized subsystems, connected points that are replacing that need for manual effort to actually scale. So hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll have a good understanding of what it truly means to create a GTM engine and what growth engineering means as well. And we'll be discussing how you can move into this area where you keep continuously adding in effort and headcount to solve problems when there is a smarter, more scalable, efficient way to do that. Josh, good to have you here as usual. How you doing?
Great to be here. It's always good to be with you,
Yeah.
Dan.
So I don't know if you want to kick things off here and talk about, the problem that has been established over time when it comes to effort-based growth, because I think there's an interesting parallel to chat about here between like effort-based growth and effort-based like change and effect compared to engineering growth. Before we get into the podcast today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. Most businesses think they know their customers. They have the data, the records, the history, but it's scattered across 3 teams and 4 systems, which means nobody can actually use it. HubSpot connects it all. Every interaction, every support ticket, every conversation into one platform every team can work from. So when sales talk to a customer, marketing already know the full story. And when you know more, you grow more. Check out HubSpot.com, the agentic customer platform for growing businesses.
Historically, in B2B growth, it all starts from the waterfall, right? You have so much revenue you need to create. You know what your average deal size is, so you got to have this many deals. You got to have this. You have you measure conversion rates. So you get you work your way up that waterfall to understand. So eventually, I need this many leads, which are going to convert at this rate, and so on and so forth. That's and so historically, like, that hasn't really changed, but historically, the only way to do that was apply applying
Mhm.
people to it, applying more resource to it. If I needed more, I needed to do that. What's changed is the tools, capable of building the factory. The factory existed before. It was just a very manual factory, right? It was an assembly line of human beings touching every little part and doing things. And now, what we're seeing is a truly connected and autonomous ability to drive the same outcomes or better outcomes, but in a more what we're calling an engineered mindset. But from an if we define terms just so we
Mhm.
have a
Yeah.
consistent understanding of what we're talking about. Uh, Historically, engineering is defined, and you can use, like, there's a million of these, but the practical application of science, mathematics, and creativity to design, build, and maintain structures, machines, systems, and processes. That is true regardless of what type of engineering you're looking at. It's been true of all kinds of engineering genres historically, but now growth, the actual art of or task of selling and growing revenue and creating revenue, we believe is now a discipline that can be applied, where engineering concepts can be applied, because the tool sets have gotten to where we you think of a carpenter in the year 1000 AD, and you think of a carpenter now. The carpenter who wanted to create uh, a cabinet business, and had to create each cabinet in each place with the tools that they had in 1000 AD. He was still using an engineering thought process. I've got to figure out what size and shape and whatever, and but now that same cabinet business is CAD driven. It's produced, it's mass produced, and that carpenter is now, because he's applied engineering, science, math, creativity to design cabinets. the, um, he's been able to automate a great deal of that process, and so as a result, he can do it at scale. He can do it cheaper. He can do it more profitably.
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing. So the same thing applies in B2B growth. It's just that most of us grew up at a time when, if we wanted more sales, we needed more salespeople, and now we're looking at it a bit differently.
Yeah, it's true with everything, right? And I think the example that I've used before is farming, right? Because if you look at farming 100 years ago, how different was that to farming now with the industrial equipment we
Right.
have, and like almost like the science behind where you plot things and how you plant things and things like that. And the flip side is also true of like in marketing, whilst in sales, at the same time, if you needed more sales, you needed more salespeople. If you needed more output from marketing, if you needed, more content, more campaigns, you would hire, well, more writers, more
Right.
designers, more like digital marketing execs. But now
That's right.
we're in this era where we can do so much more efficiently with a tech stack, but it has to be engineered and connected in the right way to allow that to happen.
Yeah, and it's not just tech. We are changing the roles of we're not eliminating humans from the growth cycle that we'll talk about. We're just changing some of what they do. Uh, and to and the volume of people that are necessary for a certain outcome.
Yeah. Before we do get into that though, I think like just breaking down what is the fundamental issue with this effort-based growth. I know you mentioned some things earlier, but just to, you know, hit hard on what are businesses suffering from when it comes to trying to grow with manual effort that's just being applied to the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue is predictability. Uh, if I and again, this applies to every engineered function that, since the dawn of time, the more engineered I can create it, the more predictable the outcome, and the more reliable my planning then. And so I can apply. I mean, the the hiring in sales has been, in B2B anyway. It's always the colloquialism is, it's a 50-50 shot. Maybe that person will be great. Maybe they'll be awful. And no matter how good of an interviewer you are, 50-50 is about
Yeah.
as best as it
Yeah.
gets, which is remarkable, right? Like, it's shockingly bad outcomes, when you think about how expensive a sales force can be. Um, but I think historically, how often have we seen, um, sales organizations say, well, turn to their marketing partners and say, these leads are crap. They're awful. I can't use them. They're not effective. Again, that marketing organization spent time, money, resource creating those leads. Uh, if they're not right, if they're not converting well, there's got to be a root cause to that. Uh, but oftentimes we just
Yep,
apply more resource
exactly,
and,
to get
and
more.
try to get more, right? No, no, no. You don't understand the waterfall. We got to get 4,000 of those leads to be able to get down to our 5 deals. And hopefully it's not that bad, but but I've seen waterfalls like that. Right. And so yeah, uh, it's the lack of predictability and then a lack of, capital efficiency
Yeah,
that are driving all of what we're seeing.
yeah,
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. So, should we bring up the growth cycle? Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, then we will show this on YouTube. So you could head over to YouTube and we'll actually show it there. But I think, well, I suppose whilst I do that, Josh, do you just want to introduce the growth cycle and kind of what we mean by it and yeah, what it means, what it is, what we're actually referring to here?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who's been around the block a few times is not going to think this is rocket science, but I think it's helpful to have a model, and in all of our experience, this is model is as good as any other, when it comes to looking at a B2B business's entire revenue life cycle. Uh, and so, it starts at the beginning. Do you want me to should I start walking through it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. So, um, first step, product market fit. Um, what if we're going to generate revenue and we're going to generate it effectively? We have to know who we're selling to. We need to know what problems they solve or that we're solving for them, um, and we need to know a lot about them individually and understand is our product. What are the core values of our product, of our company, that are resonating with this individual and this set of businesses? And so, it's shocking how often that gets missed, but product market fit is where revenue lifecycle planning starts. Once we have that, though, we know what we're selling and who we're selling it to, and why, and we've verified. We have evidence that suggests that yeah, this is a good fit, and this is something that will serve a broad enough audience. We then have to translate that into messaging. Uh, and we have to define what our core messaging is going to be, and all of the ways we want to say that, and how it, who we want to say it to, and the different people that we need to influence at at different places in their lives to be able to scale our traction. So going from understanding what we do, who we are, what we do, into the actual messages around that, that's a separate thing. That messaging function needs to be treated like its own thing. Um, Oftentimes we just, especially those of us who maybe are more engineering minded, we think we built a great mousetrap. Everybody else will see it's obviously a great mousetrap. We just have to tell them about
Mm,
the great mousetrap, and people will buy it. Well, if that were true, then
yeah.
marketing wouldn't exist, to be quite fair. So messaging is a critical second step to
Yeah,
that
I
life
think
cycle.
to
But
add
once
to
we
that,
have,
Josh,
yeah, please.
messaging,
Yep.
whilst the actual term messaging is often just thought of as how do we actually communicate our value proposition effectively to an audience, but in the actual growth cycle of a business, once you've got your product market fit, messaging isn't just about how you communicate in terms of words, it's about how you communicate visually as well. Like
Yep.
essentially, how do you take
Absolutely.
the product, the solution that you've identified there is a key fit in the market for, and take that to the market with the right message, the right visual language constructed around that as well. And then ultimately, the next step is how do you get that in front of the right people, right? With distribution.
Right. It's a great segue. Yes, that's right. So the third step is distribution. And so, yeah, um, we can have a great message. If we choose the wrong places to distribute that message, it doesn't achieve its goal, right? And so distribution could be anything from our website and LinkedIn to channel partners who are going to
Yeah.
take our message forward. And so our messaging might have to be a little different in those channels. How those messages apply to each individual distribution channel is an important element to plan for. Once we distribute those messages, we then transition into um, on your screen it's light purple, but the um, the section of the life cycle that we so the first section, the dark blue, dark purple, whatever that is, um, we would consider to be um, the traditional
Hmm.
marketing organization. uh, as we go into the medium purple, we're stages 4 and 5, we're really thinking about sales, traditional sales, right? And so, um, section 4 is engagement. So we've distributed our message. Now customers are starting to engage with that message, and they're becoming visible to us. And so being able to capture engagement, understanding who's engaging with that message, how they're engaging with it, where are they in their buyer journey, and how do we help them along the path to down the funnel, if you will, so that they can get to a place where they're comfortable, not even comfortable, where they're anxious to speak with sales is a critical part of being able to create an efficient sales function, right? So we don't want our salespeople picking up the phone and pestering somebody the first time the person sees our message, unless they're raising their hand to say, "Hey, this is great. This solves my problem. I want to talk to sales right now." But oftentimes, what we need more messaging. We need more ways of influencing that person, helping them get deeper and deeper into who we are, what we do, how our product solves their problem, to get to the point where, because we know current B2B buyers go through at
Mm.
least 70% of their buyer journey before they ever want to talk to sales, and forcing them to talk to sales too early can actually damage your engagement, not support it, not promote it, because people, right or wrong, feel like, I don't want to be sold to. I want to be educated, and I want to buy. And so um, we go through that engagement process, collecting more information, which allows us to surface more content in different ways, to in different channels, to be able to bring that person along, or that buyer along. And then finally, we do get to sales execution, right? Well, and so step 5 is sales execution. That's all about helping that salesperson go from, okay, they're ready to talk to me, to contract is signed. And there's a lot of, depending on the type of businesses, there's a lot of things that happen in that process. There's discovery calls. There's, uh, you know, solution definition calls, potentially with other people in your organization, like
Yeah.
sales engineers and so on. There's um, assets that get produced along the way that are specific to that client. Um, there's reference calls. There's all kinds of things that can happen, right? And so that process, and it takes time. Um, it has lots of steps, and in each business it's a little different. But being able to then to apply the same types of engineering tools and uh, automation capabilities to that, allow us to bring in the sales cycle quite a bit in most cases, and create higher win rates and more predictable revenue streams for that
Yeah.
first deal. Okay, so we got a customer.
No, no.
You want to? I'm sorry, Dan.
Actually,
I get excited about this stuff, but
well,
let me
so
pause.
I was gonna say now, and maybe this should have waited till we got to the end, but there's a reason why the growth cycle and the way we've plotted this out looks this way. Because I think what you just described in terms of the actual sales process itself is quite. It would be quite interesting, like to unpack that, because that itself is a individual process that you can engineer, and this is
Mhm.
how we actually started thinking about this episode in itself, when we think about the effort versus the engineering side, because typical sales execution would rely on a team of sales administrators, like a huge body of people to actually just get contracts out the door, to write proposals, to quote things, like all of these micro processes that then go into,
Give
yeah.
demos. Yeah, all kinds of stuff,
But
right.
when we start
Mhm.
thinking about GTM engineering and how we actually engineer the 8 stage growth cycle, well, each of these processes first, each of these 8 stages need their own work done first. They need their own process design
Right.
and to actually be engineered before you then connect all these things up. And I think it's worth thinking about that before. Well, we'll get to the end and then discuss that some more. But I thought that's worth shouting out.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, absolutely. I suspect that at some point we'll have a series that on Demand
Yeah.
Decoded for each one of these areas, right? So yeah, so okay, we've got a client. Client signed. They've come on board. Step six then is customer delivery. Customer delivery is absolutely part of your revenue lifecycle. You cannot get to a maximum uh, wallet share with any client if you don't first have an amazing customer delivery experience, or at least a successful one, an effective one. And so, marketing, sales, implementation teams, they all need to be engaged during that customer delivery process. And oftentimes, what we see is people just throwing the ball over the wall, and marketing,
Yeah.
isn't involved anymore, and so messaging isn't involved anymore, and that really damages the overall experience. It's an opportunity missed, is I guess what I would say. And so we think passion like at Blend, we think that customer delivery should absolutely be part of the overall revenue lifecycle system that we're building. Successful customer delivery turns into customer excitement. And so step seven is customer excitement. Um, it's fine. You can have an excited customer, but what do you do with that? So the life cycle step of customer excitement is, how do we harness our successful customers into helping us create other successful customers? So we need to have ways of programmatically capturing their experiences and turning it into messaging and distribution, and right, referral programs are another way to distribute, right. But having systems in place, processes in place to be able to identify, harness, and then leverage that customer excitement is critical to maximizing our overall growth. And then finally, step eight in the life cycle is expansion within that customer. Most businesses don't sign 100% of wallet share for a given client on the first deal. There's the deal, and then there's upsell and cross sell. And upsell and cross sell only happens once you have happy customers. And so, but there's again an entire subsystem, an entire set of processes that are necessary to be able to identify opportunities, to be able to engage customers in ways where they um, are active in communicating to you. Here's my other, you've solved this problem for me. Here's other problems you could solve for me. And that, ultimately, the reason this is a cycle and not just a line is that those kinds of conversations should influence what products we build, what services we offer. And as a result, uh, that expansion area number eight loops back around to product market fit, because what we do going forward as a business, who we are as a business, should evolve based on the feedback and the engagement from our existing customers. So, long-winded way of explaining why, or what that growth life cycle is. But we believe that, this is a model. Well, we've seen this is a model that when architected correctly, when designed appropriately, when systems are put in place, it will scale almost indefinitely, um, and create, really predictable revenue
Yeah.
growth over time. So
Basically, if you want predictable, scalable revenue for your business, every single one of these stages needs to be like systematically working on their own, but connected with everything else. There's a reason why we split this out into marketing, sales, and customer success, because so often, and let's face it, about 80% of podcast listeners, this podcast, are marketing people. So we will be, and I'm one of those, and I listen back to every episode. We are often, though, so isolated in, I mean, not even product market fit in some cases, but just how do we package up this thing that we've created, marketing, and how do we create some messaging, and how do we then distribute that to the right people? But there is little afterthought to actually how do we then empower sales to actually engage with our prospects at the right time in the best way possible? How do we accelerate that deal through the pipeline to close as quickly as possible? But then how do we, and I think, Josh, this is definitely something that you've instilled into me over the last year or so, which is how do we actually work with customer success in order to expand, learn, and like not only grow wallet share, but actually inform everything else we do from the outset as well. And I think there is just such a huge disconnect between marketing and customer success. That pair itself is not talked about enough, right? Marketing and
Yeah,
sales has been covered time and time
totally.
again. Like we know there's misalignment there. It's been well documented. The disconnect between marketing and customer success, however, yeah, that's a biggie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, so we think of this as a system, but we also think of each of these individual steps as a system. And then, with any system, there's inputs and outputs, and the ability to output from one element, uh, and successfully take it in as an input and the next element, that those handoff points are absolutely critical to nail
Mm.
effectively, because otherwise, that's you fall into the same historical thing. So problem. So what's changed in our world in the last, call it 3 years or so, um, is that most of the time, you know, I've been doing this a minute. Um, these are often the same problems. Like we're solving today the problems that I've had for decades of sales and marketing leadership. And I knew about the problems. I just didn't have the tools to be able to solve them effectively. Large majority of the data that happens within this overall system historically has happened in unstructured formats. And because they were unstructured and because they were very hard to capture, they weren't captured. Just the fact that I can now capture calls, emails, conference calls, texts, all kinds of information that historically would not have been available to me in really understanding the engagement between my
Hmm.
organization and my prospects, customers, etc. um, now allows me to harness that information, and then the tools, the data processing tools, obviously the AI, the agentic tools that allow me to then take action, analyze and take action automatically is a major part of what has changed, so that we can now build the factories that um, make this far more effective, a far more effective machine. It takes us from farming in 1850 to farming in
Yeah. Do you
2030.
know how I would think of this? Is exactly like a factory, because before, when we think about this, the difference between effort and engineering, before, if you wanted to improve, sales engagement or sales execution, we would essentially be aligning more and more people in our assembly line of people to actually create
Mhm.
a process that could accept more volume to actually improve, revenue for the business, because if we want more customers, we need more people to actually do these things. But now what we're saying is you don't need those huge assembly lines of people. You need the right systems engineered to accept that volume, but then do more with it as well. And I think, yeah, that is how I would think about this change from effort to engineering. I just wanted to take a quick break in this episode to tell you about a podcast that's essential for understanding how AI is reshaping marketing. The Next Wave, hosted by Matt Wolf and Nathan Lands from the HubSpot Podcast Network. They consistently break down the latest AI developments and what they actually mean for the way that you do business. In one episode, they dive into whether 2026 is the year AI agents become truly indispensable, covering the explosions of new AI models, how they're getting smarter and cheaper, and why companies are racing to build integrated, emotionally aware agents. If you're not keeping up with how fast AI is moving, your business is already falling behind. The Next Wave, available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening to this right now, you're probably doing what every other B2B marketer is doing, asking, how do I get my brand cited in ChatGPT? How do I show up in Gemini, Perplexity, Claude? And at Blend, we help you do exactly that. We engineer visibility in AI search for B2B companies. We build the content, implement the technical optimization, and track your performance across every major AI platform. So when buyers are researching solutions like yours, your brand gets recommended. We know how to engineer visibility in AI search because we built a framework and proved it on ourselves first. And this took months of experimentation, but in the end, it delivered 470 high value prompt appearances, 80% citation rate across prompts, and 250% more AI sourced leads. We proved the framework, and now we're starting to roll it out across customers who are seeing similar results. So, if you want to dominate AI search in your category, visit blendb2b.com to learn more about our AI search services.
No, I agree. I mean, even well, I mean, there's so many examples. It's hard to just pick a couple, right? But you know, the one that is that I think uh, can create a real change in your existing customer experience, arming your customer success team. Let's say in you're a B2B organization that runs a customer success organization that's 15 or 20 people, and they're taking calls, but they're also scheduling and doing a lot of work in Teams or some uh, conferencing capability. If I can now capture everything that has been said in those calls, I can identify the humans on the other side that are participating in those calls. I can analyze not just what is said, but the tenor of what is said and the surprises that might show up in those calls. Like, hey, the VP just showed up. The VP hasn't been in a call in 6 months, but they're here today, and we didn't expect them. Um, I can create if I can do that, then I don't have to change anything about what my customer success agent does. I can behind the scenes analyze that. Um, Depending on the tool sets I have, I could potentially prompt them in call to take action, or I can after the call's over, if there's a reason for concern or a reason for celebration, I can capture that. I can raise it to the appropriate level automatically using Slack or email or any other type of messaging platform. Um, I can create a task in HubSpot. I can create, a deal in HubSpot or a
Yeah.
lead if it's an opportunity for growth. All of these things that become available to me, where before I had to hope that that customer success person would understand the context that they were suddenly in, be willing to share that context with others, including people who might be outside of their own department. And, that process might take days, weeks to get to the right person. Now we can do that, and let's say that VP has expressed some concerns about the relationship or the some
Mhm.
portion of our service delivery. Well, now your VP of service delivery is calling that person back 2 minutes after that call ends, right? With, hey, I just heard that, I just saw what happened on the call. I want you to know I'm in the middle of it. We're dedicated to fixing it. That's a that type of responsibility, accountability, and responsiveness can create really, really great customer relationships that, those things just weren't possible before.
Absolutely. And the feedback mechanisms that you can create from this for all orgs in the business are exceptional. I would say if any of this resonates, go back and actually watch, don't listen to episode 115, where Phil and I I think we showed like 7 or 8 Ask Elephant workflows and their outputs, which
Hmm. Yeah.
we had some great feedback on showing how this stuff actually works in practice. Obviously, we're talking about the theory of it here and what it can do for you, but yeah, we showed off some really cool things there in terms of what you can actually set up in terms of workflows, how you can create actions from it, and what those actions can actually do for you as a business. I think from a marketing perspective, um, the feedback we can get from customers, if we have a customer giving us a glowing testimonial, if they're over the moon with their onboarding process or they've hit a great KPI, then I can know about that instantly. If I pick that up in call
Right.
transcripts or emails, and it could even drop me a note in the CRM, or it can Slack me or email me, and I have that feedback immediately. Or if there is a piece of content
Yep.
that resonated with a prospect, I can know that. Like, I mean, yeah, this is what we mean when we say engineering like your go to market model. It's about creating this connected process that feeds back to every other stage in this growth cycle.
So, yes, absolutely, and that's one part of it.
Mm,
Scale is another part of it, right? So, historically, scale was, human
yeah,
scale more than anything else. Now, we have tools in place, AI allows us to scale all kinds of things, but AI by itself can scale things really scarily, right? Um, if I decide, "Hey, I wanna go run 20 campaigns next week," I can have Claude create 20 campaigns, and it it'll say all kinds of interesting things about what we do and how we do it. But those might not be accurate. They might not, if I just give my campaign execution team, whoever they are, whether you've outsourced it, whether you've insourced it, let's say you've got somebody internally who's responsible for campaign design and execution. And historically, they would say, okay, I can do one campaign every 3 weeks. And
yeah,
now with Claude, you figure, oh, well, they should be able to do ten campaigns during that 3 week time frame and be able to manage those and I tend to agree with you. But if all we do is give them Claude, our the likelihood of who we really are, our product market fit, our messaging, which is, let's say it's on this baseline and this is the truth, uh, Claude will start to expand that and we'll see our identity shift in the market, and we'll start to say things that we didn't really mean to say, um, and then Claude will reinforce itself. And I don't mean to pick on Anthropic, like Claude's just the most popular tool for this sort of thing. And so um, but what's now possible, right, we can is to have governed AI. So now if and shameless plug, but uh, w- we've just started to announce and release Blend Core, which is our own governed AI solution for creating curated uh, content at scale. what does it allow us to do? Well, it allows us to capture your product market fit, your company identity, your core messaging, your ICPs, your all kinds of information, basically create a digital twin of your commercial identity, and then tie that through an MCP wrapper into your LLM of choice that supports MCPs. We'll continue to talk about Claude. Um, and now when I'm generating those 10 campaigns, that person is truly able to generate those 10 campaigns, but they're now staying within the rails. Those campaigns are driven by the core messaging that I've already created with either internally with my team or, with your marketing partner. Um, and and so as a result, that curated digital twin enables the um, creation of content at scale that stays within the bounds of what we really want to say to the market, and who we want to say it to. And so I think I use that as an example, but in all of these boxes, there's all kinds of things we can just do with AI. We have to be very careful. Like, let's say we let AI in the sales process start to generate contracts.
Yeah.
Yikes. Right? But if we give it, here's our statement of work, here's our MSA, uh, and you are limited to only using these docs, uh, we can now create a model where it creates a draft of those based on customer requirements that we surfaced in discovery calls. And instead of waiting 2-3 weeks for your contracts team to get a document out to your Salesforce, they can have it 5 minutes after the call's over. It still has to be proofed. Maybe it runs to your sales engineer or to your sales leader, and make sure that it's going to be 99-98% accurate because it's based on that uh, that digital twin that already exists and that taken the time to create
Yeah.
and curate. I think that's the model that delivers safe uh,
No,
acceleration.
it's so true, because when we look at the growth cycle and all of those 8 stages, it's so easy right now for businesses just to say, "Oh, okay, well, just in this stage, we'll use this AI tool, or we can create a Claude project for that, or we'll just use ChatGPT here."
Right.
But then the disconnect between all of those things and what's actually the truth about your business just gets blurred between the lines. And obviously, I've been working on
Totally.
the positioning and messaging for Blend Core, so I've been thinking about this a lot, right? And the value that you get from a integrated knowledge set for your business is like it can't even be like comprehended about how valuable that is, because you only have to ask 5 people in your business to complete the same task and see what those outputs are. They will all be different. They will all say different things about your business, different things about your product, your service, because the inputs
Uh,
they give will be different. Sales rep number one might use his old proposal from last year that, landed really well with the customer. Like sales rep number two might use no source
Yeah.
material and just allow the web search to do its thing. And if you have all of these disconnects along the growth cycle, like you're actually seriously damaging what we do when we get back to number one with product market fit, because everything along the way
Right.
has just been almost like fabricated.
That's right. Yeah. If your messaging um, starts to get outside of what the real truth of your business is, every other box here suffers, right? Your distribution will magnify. Like, let's say you get distribution right, but you've screwed up your messaging because you've allowed AI to invent things for you. Now you're distributing that more broadly. It's because of that, your next round of message creation will be that much further away because
Yeah.
Claude's going to then look at all these places where that message is. It must be true, and so it continues to expand. The people who hear that message are now hearing something that's, if not patently false, not quite right. right? And so they're getting an inaccurate understanding of how you help them solve problems. They then come to your sales team. Your sales team may or may not recognize that they have a misunderstanding, right? There may just be and then we get into the well, sales said conversation, which has been there since the beginning of time. Ultimately, this only shows up when we get into customer delivery and customer and the you know the lack of conversion from customer delivery into customer excitement. And so you could spend months, if not, well, probably months, um, with thinking you're doing a great job and your leads are growing and your pipeline's growing and even your sales are growing. And then all of a sudden you've got a leaky bucket because the customer experience that is truly your experience isn't what the customer thought they were buying because they inherited messaging from a content creation process that was too broadly enabled
Yeah.
without enough governance.
So, Josh, we've spoken about, this change from effort to engineering and some things that we're doing, right? Which seem maybe strange for us to be creating Blend Core, which is a knowledge base that can be used across all of your AI tools to maintain consistency. And like, I know some people that I speak to in communities and things have known Blend from the past, but I think it's actually just worth telling like our Demand Decoded listeners like what what we're doing and like where we're going as a business because we're doing some really cool things, right? And we're gonna look and sound like a very different business soon, and it's all like super exciting. And I kind of want to bring them along with us.
Okay. Yeah, I think of this as a natural evolution, and I'll tell you why. Uh, I'll go back 10 years. You were probably still in high school, and
No,
uh,
I wasn't just.
okay. Hey, congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
graduation, Dan. So, so 10 years ago, uh, I found Blend because I was looking for a marketing agency that could help me expand my business in Europe. I was running sales and marketing for an organization in the U.S. Who had acquired a company in Europe, and candidly, I didn't want to be the U.S. Uh, guy that just comes and tries to plant a flag and be seen as the whatever. But um, in 5 years of working with Blend back then, Blend started as a marketing agency, a traditional agency, a HubSpot
Yeah.
partner very early on. Uh, HubSpot was all about inbound growth. Blend became all about inbound growth. This is not what we're talking about now. Isn't outside like it's part everything that Blend always did is part of this overall story. It's generating inbound growth was a system, was a machine. Um, that whole thought process is just now expanding to what inbound growth or inbound demand gen didn't didn't cover yet. It didn't cover the sales process. It didn't cover the delivery and um, you know cross sell upsell process. And part of that was I think part of that was HubSpot wanting to be the CRM that was very focused on new business development, and um, and they succeeded, right? They helped a lot of businesses grow and find new customers and so on. But HubSpot's evolved over that time, and HubSpot is now truly, in my book, the very best CRM platform that is full life cycle CRM. It's truly customer relationship management, not sales and marketing growth.
Yeah.
And as a result, um, and I specifically mean for businesses under $1 billion. I think there's other choices and other things that come into play when you're thinking about really like global enterprise, big companies. But um, in B2B tech, between 25 million and a billion in revenue, HubSpot is by far the best total cost of ownership, the best platform for enabling your teams and so on. Um, so, and I'm sorry, I'm getting off track, but when you ask me where we're going, part of it is okay. We're partnered with HubSpot, and we're going to stay partnered with HubSpot. That's an important part of our long-term strategy at Blend. But the other thing that's true is that where Blend started in enabling that inbound process, which was incredibly successful for so many of our customers, including me,
Mm.
because I was a customer for 5 years, and that was an amazing experience. Now turning the that same thought process, or a very similar thought process, into how do we solve for systems, other portions of this system, right? The subsystems that make up
Yeah.
the rest of the revenue lifecycle, is a natural expansion. What's when you combine that with timing, which the emergence of tools that allow us to do this effectively and to some extent uniquely. I mean, we're not the only company ever who's talking about this kind of thing, but I will tell you that in my uh, travels and talking with a lot of CEOs, uh, CEOs are being pressured extremely hard by their investors, by their boards, on how are they applying AI to all parts of their business, and the area like in their production facility, if they're a manufacturing company, uh, this sort of engineering thinking has always been there, and if not always, like for a long time, right? But it's been very unlikely to have been applied in the go-to-market organization. And so what's really just a ton of fun is taking that kind of same mindset and then applying it um, to a company's overall revenue lifecycle. And so for us, this is what we want to do for the foreseeable future is engage organizations, engage their leadership, and help them assess how their life cycle is working, where there are challenges, friction points, either within the subsystem, individual subsystems, or in the handoff points, or both, which is usually what we find. And then creating solutions that help them uh, operate a whole lot more effectively and efficiently, and be able to show that in the outcomes that get created. Uh, that's where we're going. So we will be a hopefully one of the first growth engineering firms that is global in nature, focused on uh, the B2B tech space, tech and tech-enabled services within, the call it 25 million to $500 million range of revenue. Um, and and we have some vertical specialties where we're just that much more experienced. But overall, that's where we're going, and it's I mean, I get up every day excited about what we're building for our customers, and how we're enabling people to be more successful. um, I think of all of the people in these three areas: marketing, sales, customer success. I think of the challenges they've always had. I've lived those challenges for a long time. To be able to create um, uh, work streams, workflows, automated processes that suddenly the lights come on and they're like, "Holy crap! Look at look at what I can do now." People get excited. It's not about reducing people. It's not about losing people. It's about actually making them way more effective at driving the outcomes that the business needs. And if that business is more successful, it's only going to grow faster and create more opportunities for people who are making that
Yeah.
happen.
I would add to that I've been at Blend now nearly 4 years. And whilst, I was chatting to a friend the other day and they were, asking me what we do. And they were like, oh, you're like a website agency. I was like, well, we do websites and we do them really well. And they're such an important part of go to market. But actually, even
Yeah.
in my 4 years, just being at Blend, and actually I've heard of Blend for, like 10 years now. And they Blend has always been way more than that, and actually has always had such a focus on true business outcomes. Even during like the inbound marketing era,
Yep.
it was always about how do we actually generate pipeline and revenue for businesses, and how do we do it in a predictable way, which is what the inbound methodology was all about. And I think all of
Yep.
that learning, by the way, is actually going into Blend Core. And this is, I mean, we just need to do an episode on Blend Core, I think, but because we've deviated on this episode so hard right now, but I kind of love it. Like I love it in some ways. Um, this is what got me really excited about Blend Core, because yeah, it's a integrated knowledge base for your business, and we can combine your services and ICP and brand and tone of voice and all of that to be distributed across all of your AI systems. But that's then just your business information. And that's brilliant. It gives you consistency. But what if you could actually layer on like 15 years of go to market knowledge inside of that as well? And how you actually write
Right.
positioning on a website, how you actually structure like blog articles for AEO, how you do like all of these things when it comes to go to market. Well, like we're layering that
That's
in
right.
Blend Core. And yeah, I think like, I'd love to like show somebody it, and I'm sure you would demo it as well. And yeah, it's just there's so much exciting stuff going on at the moment.
I
Yeah.
agree. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Well, I know we're out of time, Josh. So let's wrap it up there. Do you want to leave us with any wise words about what we even talked about, moving from effort to engineering?
Yeah. I think the message is, um, if you haven't been thinking about uh, applying engineering principles and current um, tool sets that are available to you to create more effective, more visible, more predictable revenue, uh, you need to start because people are going to blow by you really fast. And the the most valuable investment of time or of resource right now isn't in hiring key people. It's in really becoming uh, capable using new tool sets and systems and connecting these things together so that um, so that you can move at scale. And so I would encourage the leaders out there to really think through their entire revenue life cycle. It is connected. We talked about that, early on in this episode. The um, the 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 opportunity for connectivity across all of these stages is it is it's just a different game now. We're playing a different game, and if you're not if you're not on that, I'm
If you're not
failing
in
with
that
my
league,
analogies. I'm going to
then
stop.
you can't even challenge for promotion.
Yeah, you need to get some help. You need to get some help. Yeah, and we'd love to be your coach. We'd love to be your help, and we'd love to just talk about this stuff and
Yeah.
show you what's possible.
Awesome. All right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Demand Decoded. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone. Before you go, if all you can think about right now is AI search and how buyers are using it to find products in your category, we should talk. At Blend, we've built a proven framework for answer engine optimization. We tested it on ourselves first and saw 470 high value prompt appearances, 80% citation rate, and a whopping 250% increase in AI source leads. That's real high intent leads who are finding us through AI search. We've since rolled it out to dozens of clients who are now seeing similar results. Our AI service engineers your visibility in ChatGPT, Perplexity, AI mode, Gemini through structured content, schema markup, and continuous optimization, and measurement through our partner Scrunch. If you want to show up when your buyers are asking AI tools for recommendations in your category, find out more about our AEO services at blendb2b.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.